The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Hello folks, welcome back to Ryedale once again for the last one in this particular run and the last one in North Yorkshire for a while, but don't worry, I will be coming back to these parts in the future. So what have I got for you today? Well, I've got a village which nicely ties together a few things which we know from some other North Yorkshire episodes. This is the wonderful Warthill. Warthill, Watch or Beacon Hill. Lastly this week, as we wrap up another run in Ryedale, we're on the fringes of the city of York once again. It's been a while. Today we're in Warthill, 6 miles northeast of York. Its name literally means Watch or Beacon Hill, meaning yes, once again, we're in a hilltop village. This one has some more railway history to speak of, tying in nicely with what we already know about the miniature one at Sandhutton. It had a mainline station where it met the national rail network. Whilst that station may have disappeared now, Warthill still retains a few bits of interest. For one, it has a public house by the name of the Agar Arms, and for another it has a school established in 1863. The standout feature here is St Mary's Church, a 19th century building which is a good example of Victorian Gothic architecture. Elsewhere in the parish you may come across Brockfield Hall, a Georgian house completed in 1807. It was built for Benjamin Agar by Peter Atkinson, a man who worked in the office of the famous York architect John Carr. With its oval entry hall and cantilevered staircase, the house displays fine art and furniture, and mementos associated with the Fitz-Alan Howard family. It also has an unusual collection of glass walking sticks. The interior serves partly as a display space for paintings by the Staithes group of artists. It's a fine building, and it's well worth its Grade 2 listed status. We'll discover more about the history of the house as we venture through the village, the parish, and everything else around us. For one last time this week in Ryedale, let's go. We begin today's episode with Dalby Nursery, located to the north of the main village. They occupy Warthill's Manor Farm, and this is the perfect garden centre for all your gardening needs, whether you're a seasoned gardener or a newcomer to the hobby. Dalby Nurseries is celebrated for its broad assortment of plants. Their collection includes everything from colourful flowers to resilient shrubs, catering to every gardening preference in North Yorkshire. The centre also offers a range of garden tools, furniture and lighting too. Now, this isn't the only garden-related attraction in Ryedale Parish. Let's learn a bit more about Breezy Knees. Breezy Knees is a true Yorkshire hidden gem. It's a garden which is independently owned and family run. It started in 1999 as a development of trees, hedges and shrubs. By 2006, as they started to become established, work continued on the borders, which is still continuing now. Popular TV gardener Monty Dom describes it as a beautiful modern garden created on the grandest possible scale. I mean, he's not wrong. It's one of the largest gardens in the north of England at over 20 acres and with more than 7,000 different varieties of flowers, shrubs and trees. There's always something in bloom along the extensive herbaceous borders that form the heart of the gardens, giving a succession of flowers from May to the end of September. In August, the main borders are a riot of colour. It's full of spectacular displays like the White Rose Fountain, which comes to life every 5 or 10 minutes, and a Stonehenge display, aptly named Stonehenge. What about the origin of the name Breezy Knees? Well, the land used to be arable farmland, with the only trees being a line of oaks near where the Yorkshire fountains are. With no effective hedges, it made it very exposed. If one stood there in the middle of January, then it becomes obvious how the garden's got its name. Breezy Knees it might be in January, but in the summertime, it's the bee's knees. Warthill village is very similar to the others we've been covering this week. Again, it's a linear settlement and has a small population. It has a pretty limited amount of landmarks, but there are a couple to speak of. First up, we've got the church. St Mary's Church was built in the 19th century, and it's a good example of Victorian Gothic architecture. The history of a church in Warthill goes back much further than this building does, though. It was preceded by a brick church which was built in 1787, and in turn that one replaced an ancient building that had stood here for centuries beforehand. The brick church was the work of Robert Bowes. Construction of the present church, also made of brick, began in 1873. There were other religious buildings in the village at one time. They included a now disused Wesleyan Methodist chapel which was built in 1841. At that time, there were 17 members of the Methodist Society in the village and an average chapel attendance of 60 people. So at the back of the churchyard there's like a little opening which leads into sort of a churchyard extension, I suppose. You wouldn't necessarily know that this was here from the road, but it is. There you go. That's how you get to it. You have to go through the churchyard to get to this kind of like a secret cemetery, I suppose. Still some space in here as well right at the back, so clearly burials still take place here in Warthill. Now, let's head out of the churchyard now and head across the road to the site of a former pub and the beautiful water feature that sits in front of it. Now we cross the road, and in doing so we pass by the village pond or mere in true East Riding fashion, because this was, after all, a former East Riding village. This pond has a family of ducks who live on it. Did you know, by the way, that the Wildlife Trust advises villages like Warthill exactly how many ducks should be allowed on each and every pond? Here in Warthill, the maximum number is around a dozen. More than that affects the sustainability of other life, such as great crested newts, and also invites the build-up of algae and unclean water. Warthill currently has well over 60 ducks, so please refrain from feeding them if you're ever here. Until 2019, you could sit with a pint and watch the world go by in front of this after a visit to the Agar Arms. In 2019, the Agar Arms became at least the 5th pub owned by Tadcaster Brewery Samuel Smiths to close in that year. The reason for its closure wasn't immediately apparent, but it seems to have suffered from a lack of trade. The brewery bans the use of mobile phones and tablets within its pubs, but another contributing factor was the introduction of a rule saying customers should pay for things with cash and not credit cards. There remains the possibility that this pub could reopen, but for now at least it's pulled its last pint. It seems to be lived in currently. The Agar name, though, is an interesting one. The pub is named after a local landowner who lived in a mansion, not in Warthill, but instead just outside the village. More on him and where he lived in a bit. Okay, so it's a familiar story now. The rest of Warthill is basically all on this road right here. And this runs north, basically, and everything, like I said, is on either side of it. There aren't any little streets coming off, so it's just a case of walking up to the end and then walking back down again. The only other thing of note really up here is the school. So, yeah, I'll see you in a minute when we get to that. The only other thing of note in the main village is that school, and to get to it we have to walk a ways north. In doing so, let's fill in a few more historical bits. Warthill derives from the Old Norse Vartha, which means beacon, and simply means beacon hill. The village is a mix of established working farms, 18th and 19th century cottages, and more recent housing. 4 of the properties are listed buildings. Brockfield, Lamb's Cottage, Walnut Farmhouse and Yew Tree Farmhouse. It was once served by Warthill railway station, which was on the York to Beverley line between 1847 and 1959. We won't see that station in this video though. It's actually not in Warthill Parish. I did, however, cover it in the Stockton on the Forest episode of the York series, because that's where it's located. That episode is linked in today's end screen. The station was the southern terminus of the Sand Hutton Light Railway, which we learned about yesterday. Here's the school. Warthill Church of England Primary was established in 1863. The Victorian building has since been adapted to serve the full primary age range of today's modern world. In 1995 and 98, the school improved its toilet and cloakroom facilities, and in 2008 an extension was built to provide a new early years foundation stage and key stage 1 classroom. And with that, we're pretty much all the way through the village. Time to turn around and head back to the start, but not before I've been to the parish notice board. Out the front of the school we have a parish notice board, and so Warthill is in the books. Okay, we're pretty much at the end of the village now, because sort of beyond where we are here, you've got the garden centre, which we saw first off. You can just about see that in the distance, and that's really it, because after that the road becomes just, you know, country road. No houses, no properties, no businesses, nothing like that. That doesn't mean we are done completely with Warthill. We've already talked a bit about the garden centre and Breezy Knees and all that kind of stuff, but there's also something else within the parish boundaries that's very important to this place, and this links back to the name of that pub. Brockfield Hall stands within some parkland, which has little changed from when Benjamin Agar built the farm and walled garden in 1799 and his house in 1804. Now you know how the Agar Arms gets its name. Its architect was Peter Atkinson, a partner of John Carr of York, and a major feature of this is the entrance hall with its fine cantilevered staircase. Brockfield was bought in 1951 by Lord Martin Fitzalan Howard and is now the family home of his grandson, Mr. Wood, and his wife. Lord Martin was the brother of the 17th Duke of Norfolk and the son of the late Baroness Beaumont of Carlton Towers near Selby. The house contains some interesting portraits of her old Roman Catholic family, the Stapletons, and some good English furniture. Speaking of art, the house has the country's largest collection of paintings by artists of the Staithes group, Yorkshire's impressionist artists. The Staithes Art Club has some 30 members, many of whom trained in Paris at the Académie Julian and are thus close cousins in art of the Newlyn School in Cornwall. Brockfield Hall was recently restored and was the winner of the 2023 Sotheby's Historic Houses Restoration Award and the 2024 George and Group Restoration of a Country House Award. The house is open to the public every year. And that'll do us for another run in Ryedale. With 17 now behind us, we're motoring through this section of North Yorkshire at a pace. I'll be back very soon, but the next time you'll see me in Yorkshire, I'll be elsewhere. Bye for now. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.